All right, welcome back to another Corona Geek, here where we talk all about mobile app development using Corona SDK. I'm your host, Charles McKeever, and today we're going to talk about Fire Phone and code. We got lots of code going on. We got cloud code, we got demo code, we got sample app code, we got all kind of stuff going on today. So we've also got some graffiti artwork going on here. Greg's taken over the drawing tool and created a whole Flava Ed theme. You just tell us when you get tired of that, Ed, and we'll ramp it up even more. Well, what do you guys think about Fire Phone? Anybody keeping up with this?
Are you going to do announcements?
No, I'm not going to do announcements. Yeah, let's do announcements. Let me do announcements first. I actually just, I write up these whole show notes and then I just throw them out the window. So if you didn't get a chance to watch last week's Corona Geek number 94, we actually did an Apple App Store changes. We talked about Composer GUI updates and exploring sample code, which we didn't get to the sample code, so we're going to hopefully get to that today. But it's still a good show, so go check that out. Also, in the community news, who's got something they want to talk about? Anybody want to share something in particular? If not, I got lots of stuff to rat you out about.
Funnily enough, I do have an announcement.
Go for it. You haven't been here in a while. We've missed you.
Thank you. So I have my latest fitness app out, which is called Minute Stretches, and it's available right now for iOS. I think I'm going to release for Android pretty soon. But it is for all of you telecommuters and office workers out there. We need to just take a break and stretch. So what it does is it shuffles some random stretches for you on a notification schedule if you like that, or you can just pick a random stretch and stretch.
You said it notifies you. Is it on a timer? Can you set the timer? How does that work?
You basically tell it what hour you want it to notify you. Like if you wanted it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, then you just set that in the notification bar. It's a local notification. It's not a push.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But the timer, basically, if you're doing static stretches, you should not be doing it for more than a minute. You should not hold a stretch for more than a minute, according to research. So what I did is, since it is minute stretches, I'm giving you 2 stretches to perform in 1 minute, so 30 seconds each, and that is done on a timer. So it'll ping when you need to switch stretches.
I've never held a stretch for more than 60 seconds.
Well, don't do it. Bad things can happen.
Wow, bad things can happen. Okay. Well, definitely. Well, good. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I know that I have this Jawbone, wristband, but it, you can set it to remind you if you've been inactive for every, half an hour or whatever. But it doesn't always get my attention, and I don't always do it. So having some sort of instruction and some kind of goal to go forward would be good.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have this one, instead of having video to work with, it has just photographs. So it's really, really easy, just like straightforward UI, and it'll just like quickly get you to take a break and stretch.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, we'll definitely put a link to that in the show notes, so definitely go check that out. Minute Stretches.
Thank you.
All right. Who else has got something I want to share? Anybody? Ed's shaking his head no, but I know Ed's been blogging every day over on roaminggamer.com, so go check him out. I've been posting it on Twitter and that sort of thing, but you can always subscribe to his blog and get that before I pick it up and rebroadcast it. And then Sergey, he's been putting out a daily tip on Twitter, so definitely these are 2 guys that you would want to go and follow, along with Jen and Dr. Burton here, who is also joining us, and he's got his books that he's putting out, and MOOC. You have a MOOC, right?
Yes, there's a MOOC, and teaches basic mobile application development. I'm still adding to it. It's still very much in beta, but I know a couple of universities are going to be using it this fall to help teach students mobile application development, and it follows the Learning Mobile Application and Game Development textbook that is being used widely across the USA.
All right, awesome. Well, very cool. We tweeted that out a couple of times, and you definitely want to follow that. We'll put a link in the show notes. And Greg, I know Greg is I thought you had a screenshot on there. You were so still.
No.
You were so still. I thought, yeah, he's silently, behind the scenes, he's goofing off, but he's got this screenshot that makes him look like he's paying attention. What have you been up to? What's been going on in the GP Animations world?
Not too much. Just starting to focus more on illustration again. Trying to get back into drawing. Took a little bit of time off from coding, and then working on something that I can't talk about yet, but we'll talk about next Monday.
Yay!
So.
Nice teaser. Good. Awesome. Yeah, we definitely got. Hopefully, we'll get some a guest next week that'll be able to come on and talk about some really interesting stuff. And then, of course, there's in the Coronium cloud is a whole world of stuff that we're going to talk about eventually today. But yeah, Chris, you've been super busy, huh?
Yeah, definitely. Also, mod parse has been updated too, so if anybody's been using that,
good to know.
Yeah.
Video upload now and some progress stuff in there. So
yeah, Chris is
Charles
awesome
for pushing that.
Yeah, thank you for I just said, hey, does mod parse do this? And you're like, it will. I'm like, sweet.
Cool.
So yeah, don't be afraid to ask for something because you never know what'll happen.
Exactly.
So definitely go follow Sergey. He's got his last pro. I'm gonna read a couple of his pro tips here. One was that pro tip of the day: always write clean code, indent properly. This improves readability and makes it ... Which I thought I was like, makes it what? Makes it what? And then I had to click through and go read his blog. So he's got some great pro tips over there. Go check that out. And then the other pro tip was a simple for loop is faster than iPairs and pairs. However, it rarely makes a difference. So I thought that was an interesting statement. It rarely makes a difference, huh?
Yeah, I'm back. So yes, other people are concerned about which for loop is faster. They always going, no, we will only use for loops, simple and everywhere. But if your application is really better having iPairs or pairs, just use it because it doesn't make a difference unless you're making, I don't know, 10,000 iterations, for example.
So there might be a clear case where it makes a difference, but for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And you're probably if you're to that point where you're optimizing that hard, you will probably know that when that is.
One thing when you always want to use for loops is where you want to gain speed as much as possible. For example, in particle engine. So if you have a lot of particles, even if there are not so many of them, you should always use for loop.
Very cool. There was a few items in
what Sergey had there.
Oh no! Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Sergey, would you agree that people tend to jump into the optimizing before they need to, or even when they don't need to?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They try to optimize before profiling and before knowing what's going on.
Yeah, I was going to say, make your game, run it on your devices. If you don't like it, then profile it with a tool or with your own tools, and then optimize. But if you optimize first, you may never get your game done.
At first, when you're writing your game, the first thing that you should be considered is readability of your code. If it's clean, if it runs, if you can understand it, it's good. If you can understand it, you can always fix it to make it faster if you need.
Exactly. Are you going to be able to remember how it works in a month?
Yeah, I know they always talk about comments, that you should put comments in so that so that someone else can come in behind you and understand what's going on. And I've often found that it's me who comes in behind me and doesn't know what I was thinking at the time.
Exactly. You know that I was updating the code for the Rotten Apples game. That's chapter 16 of the beginning mobile application and game development, and someone had written me and said, hey, it's not working with the new Graphics 2.0. And I went in, and I was so glad I had commented the code because it made upgrading it to Graphics 2.0 so much easier. And comments are step one.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
of the tips I've heard a lot is also writing your code to be almost like its comments. So obviously use things, don't use just random variables. Use things that are very literal and make sense, and try to put the code flow out there so you're actually commenting as you're coding, and that's also real helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, I really don't. I mean, I can appreciate obscure syntax and things like that work in languages. That pare the code down, make it smaller or whatever. But yeah, I really don't like those really weird things in the language that when you read it, you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. You have to know the context or the subtext to that language in order to be able to figure it out. And it's like, is it really that hard just to write it out? I don't know.
So
Unless there's
definitely plays a huge role in development.
yeah. All right, so let's move on because I know we got a lot of stuff to talk about. There's a few topics here that we could probably cover, but we'll probably skip. Let's see. There's one here about the OS X Beta 10.10. There was a blog post not too long ago about running that with Corona, so if you are considering upgrading to the beta of, was it Yosemite? Is that what they're calling it? We might want to hold off because there is there's a bug that's on the Apple side of things that we've submitted a bug report on, and they have yet to address it. Even with the most recent release of or update to the beta, it looks like that's still not taken care of. So it will probably be taken care of at some point, but just be aware of it. So if you're basically the simulator crashes and you have some white screen problems, and it's just kind of a general nuisance. So as Greg learned, jumping into the beta camp it can be painful. So
Yeah, don't do it.
right, especially not on a production machine. I think Sergey, you said last time not to do it on a secondary machine if you want to. Okay, and then a few items here from Twitter. Basically, Jay has put out. He said he's about halfway through putting up a composer video tutorials for Corona SDK, and those are on masteringcoronasdk.com, so you can definitely check those out. We mentioned the open beta of the MOOC that's now available. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. That's from Dr. Burton. And then JY comes in again and says that he's got a spell/weapons cooldown video tutorial that includes a sneak peek of an upcoming Desperado IDE. So it's something he's working on over there. And I actually watched that video. It's a kind of a cool way of visually indicating the status of different objects in your game. So the spell/weapons cooldown tutorial video, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. You can go check that out. All right. Real quick, so we can get to the main topics here. Fire Phone. What does everybody think? Thumbs up, thumbs down, no care?
That's a tough call. Until you've actually had a chance to use one, and Amazon hasn't sent me one to evaluate. So.
This is true.
Now, Greg did talk me into the Fire TV, and that's going very well. I guess, Greg, I do still hold you responsible for that $99 expenditure, but I haven't. The Fire Phone looks interesting, but they sure do have it at a premium cost. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on that.
Yeah, Benedict Evans wrote that it has 4 cameras on the front to do eye tracking that powers a quasi 3D feature for a few apps. Beyond that, it's a pretty standard high-end smartphone. Sells only in the U.S. and for the same price as an iPhone 5S.
Yeah, absolutely. I think $199 on contract, somewhere in the $600, $650 to $100 off contract. So yeah, apart from what are they calling it? Dynamic perspective, something like that. Fire.
I mean, as a coder, a game developer, that looks kind of neat to develop for. But I got to have a game that it actually applies to as well. So.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what's the battery size for Fire Phone?
No, I haven't seen that. Anybody seen any new specs on that? I heard that it's heavier than the iPhone, so it's like a bigger device.
Here's Jeff Bezos on that.
Oh, okay. Put a link in the chat there. Okay. Did he say exactly what it is?
I'm looking.
Okay. Oh, scanning.
When you go to Amazon.com, it rotates occasionally, just showing you the actual specs.
Oh.
I wonder why their phone doesn't have this red light like in a supermarket scanner, barcode scanner. So you should like beep beep beep. It's so authentic. And
But you don't have to. It's got the fly thing, which is just you look over it, it sparkles, and then it tells you what it is. I don't know. I was kind of amazed by the commercial because it kind of came off as I thought at first it was an Apple parody for some reason. You know, it was like it has this wonderful 3D effect, and I go, you mean like parallax? And then it didn't really go into it very much further. Then it goes, you can make calls, and I'm like, okay. I don't know. I think it looks cool, but it looks like it's going to be great for them keeping things in their little box, you know, kind of like what Apple is doing. So
I think people
they
are
had to do
hoping
some.
turn into a drone.
They had to do some wow effect for their phone, so it would be talked about. So 3D perspective won't make such won't be useful, but it's definitely going to bring some hype about it, in my opinion.
And let's talk for a second from a developer perspective as to Amazon's App Store compared to Google's App Store compared to Apple's App Store. Personally, I'm not seeing nearly as many downloads for the apps that I've got on the stores on Amazon compared to Google and Apple. Is that what everybody else is seeing?
I wonder if I had
It
any
really
trails.
depends on the type of app. I think if you're doing any kind of story apps, you might get better downloads, but for games or utility apps, I'm kind of pulling back a little.
You pulling back a little on what?
Amazon.
On Amazon. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I kind of want Amazon to win, just because they seem to be. They seem to have it all kind of all together, right? So they've got the online presence, they've got the offline presence, they've got they've got all the devices. You know, so they're working really hard at it. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, they seem very much an island, you know, very specialized, not really wanting to cross-pollinate with anybody else, which is kind of a. I mean, we went through a period of that in tech where everybody had their own little thing, and if you weren't in this camp, you had to, you know, you kind of had to make do or hobble along between camps, and then there was a whole open initiative or open standards push. A lot of great things came out of open standards, and now with all the app stores, we're almost back to these silos, and each company is pushing harder and harder for their silo to be the one that wins, and so it's kind of like, I just don't like the way that feels, you know. So, all right, well,
Well, right now, you know, I'm making all my money really off the Apple Store, and Matt mentioned in the chats that was what he was seeing as well. I'm making maybe half through Google Play, and then Amazon's just not even showing up on my charts for where the downloads are coming from. So from a developer standpoint, I'm not going to put energy, as Jennifer said, I'm not going to put energy into a market that isn't giving me a return. It's
Right.
and which creates catch-22. They don't have the apps, so they're not going to have the market. So they're not going to have the apps, so they're not going to have the market, and yeah.
it's the Kevin O'Leary thing of app development, right?
Well, right, yeah, exactly. It's like it's almost like Samsung, the Samsung store. You know, Samsung has a big.
That's a joke. I'm sorry.
It's a big. They have a big presence in the devices, but I don't. I've never heard very many positive things about the store. So.
When you can even log into it.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
or you can figure out the menus, or if they don't send you back a thing saying, "Oh, it started with a black screen." Yeah, because it's a black app. Oh, but we failed your app. And here's 17 pictures of a guy trying to run it on devices that it shouldn't be running on. So then you have to go exclude all those devices, and I'm like, it's not worth it to even deal with you people.
Right.
I take it that's all from personal experience.
Those were all personal things. Yeah, yeah. I took a video of my phone running on a Samsung device because I've bought Samsung devices just to get in the Google stores, the Samsung stores, and sent it back to the developer, the tester, right? And he goes, "Well, that's not what I did on mine." I go, "I don't know. Maybe yours is a piece of crap. How do I know what yours is? You know, my Samsung did just fine." You know, and I go.
Well, there you go. I think the takeaway there then is, you know, you spend your energy on probably one or two or both of the stores. You know, you do Google Plus or Google Play, and Apple, and just, you know, focus.
Yeah, in the Nook store, I was actually for some reason I liked it because it was tied to Barnes and Nobles, and I thought it would be the device is very, linear in what it can do, so it's not going to be too many different things you have to deal with. And first app I put in there was a free app, and I wanted to put an ad on it, and then I read the guidelines saying you can't even put an ad on there.
Right.
On their
Yeah.
apps. So I was like,
Early on, as I understand it, early on, people did well in that store because there were very few competitors, and it wasn't a noisy marketplace. But yeah, once they started pulling, ads and things like that, and it made it extremely hard for developers to make any money unless it was a paid app. And if people don't want to pay for apps, then that makes it kind of hard. So
yeah.
Get a little trickle from Nook. I think the thing about Nook is it's not integrated with App Annie, so you have to. It's just it's just that little inconvenience that just drives me nuts.
Yeah, you have to look right.
Get up in the morning, you lie in bed, and you check your downloads. Why? I'm done.
That's funny. All right, well, that's good. Let's move on to talking about some of these things here in the Geek Speak. Let's talk about Coronium, because I know Coronium's got a lot of great stuff going on, a lot of updates happening. So, Chris, tell us about that.
Okay. Can everybody hear me fine?
Mm-hmm.
All right. My internet was being wacky there for a second, so
my Chrome over here has gone completely nuts. So all I have is a white screen. So I guess everybody can see each other.
All right, let me see if I can get some screen sharing going on here. Let's see.
Now, what version of Coronium are we up to now?
So we're up to let's see, what does Google Talk wants to my computer here.
So for everybody who's thinking about using cloud code, go check out coronium.io. That's the place to get everything, the instructions and the videos and everything.
Okay, so I guess you can see this window here. This screen sharing thing is odd.
Earlier today, Google was having some problems. We were experiencing some Google Drive issues and some Docs issues, and Google Plus was kind of freaking out. So,
all right, well, we'll try this one, see where we're at. So basically, yeah, we're at 1.85, and the newest additions are okay. Yeah, so it's definitely not showing the right screens here. You guys still see the extend your apps screen?
All I've got is your face.
Okay, now you should be seeing this, hopefully.
I got a black sky. Okay, there we go. Oh, hey.
All I've got is your face.
That's a scary thought. Okay, so
that's the new slogan. All I've got is your face.
Can you see the web browser here with the administration screen?
Roger that.
Okay, good.
Yes?
Thank you. Good. I can't see anything, so good. You guys tell me.
Oh, poor Charles. He's out.
I know it.
Okay, so let me see. Now that we're finally set up here. Okay, so we're on 1.85. The newest additions were the user management system and the push integration for that. A lot of people were asking for user management, so that was what we focused on mostly on this version. Generally, though, if you haven't seen it since the 1.7, there's kind of just been another visual overhaul, getting things a little more organized, and but all the same functionality is there from the previous items. So I did want to run through some code. The thing is that the code won't. There wasn't very much code because in general Coronium doesn't use very much code. The one thing, can anybody see my Sublime window right now?
No.
No? Yeah, this screen share thing, it just wants to share my one browser here. It doesn't want to. Here we go. How about this one? It's giving me
You have a dual desktop?
It's giving me like 7 different options to share my screen. So,
yeah.
Okay, so here we go. So basically, there has been some user management put in here. So there is now user area, like I was saying. There's some other confirmation stuff we'll look at in just a second, and this is all being backed by Mongo. I'm becoming a huge Mongo fan now. So there is just some of the regular things that were already in here. There's a new settings area now. There is some email stuff that you can set for the system. There's emails now sent for the user. You can decide whether you'd like account confirmation emails. So when you actually register new users, it'll go through that whole process for you, sending out the email and making sure that they confirm their account, etc. And we'll look at that in a second. Pushbots is what's being used right now as far as like the internal push system, and then over time we'll probably put other systems in there. Of course, you can write modules on your own too as well to interface with any push system through the cloud code if you wanted to. And then, so let's go ahead and just take a look real quick at on the also too on the front page now. The Google group has been integrated right there in the front, so it's kind of nice to be able just to see what the recent issues are, and if you need to ask a question or whatever, you can do that from there.
I like that you're pulling those types of things in, where you don't have to go look for things. Everything's just right there.
Yeah, the idea definitely is to try to get everything kind of contained in one area. There's now this whole doc area up here too for help. So if you want to get to something directly for like the server, these are all the server modules, and then you can get to the client modules too through some direct links here. So if I wanted to, if I need some information about what the MongoDB cloud code is for the server, then I can just jump over there, and then I can see the examples and go through all that stuff. So I'm trying to make it so it's kind of just one nice inclusive system, and that you don't have to jump around too much, and you can kind of find everything right here. So as far as users, I'm going to go ahead and just start with making sure that my confirmation is off, so we can kind of just run through this, and it is. So in here, what happens is in the email settings here, it's automatically going to just grab your information from the server when you first install or when you first start up your new instance. So I'm going to just change some of this. This is what would be the from name that's going to show up in the email, the from address. And this is the host name of your server, which you'd use to point your confirmation links, etc. So to make this a little more readable, I'm just going to go ahead and change the from name to Coronium. And the Coronium server only sends mail. It won't receive mail. So it's best to put up a no reply address. Or if you do want those replies to go somewhere, then you would put that reply address in there. And I'm just going to leave this host name in there for now. And I'm going to just save that for now, and then I'm going to jump back over to my code. So I have in my globals, I've gone ahead and put in my API key and everything in there already, so I have that in there. And the first kind of hello world test that you should always do with your Coronium server is just an app open, so I'm going to go ahead and just run that. And we should get some status here in a second. Get some room down here. Okay, so my results open, so I can go ahead and confirm that I have that, and that would be in here in this chart, so I should have a new mark here. And also I got the results open, so that means that's good. So let's go ahead and just register a user. We'll look at what that takes. So to register a user on your Coronium, it's just a matter of passing it the email and a password. And of course, your password, even though it does a tiny bit of encryption over the wire, your stuff won't be entirely secure over the wire unless you're running HTTPS. So that will be a tutorial I'm going to go over soon that will kind of show you how to set that up on your server. So this is all it takes to register a user. So I'm just going to go ahead and refresh that. I have all good here. So if I go back into my users, I now have a new user added. And because I didn't have my email confirmation on, it's going to go ahead and automatically confirm that user for me. So now this user's in the system, and I can log in and log out with that user. And the way we do logging in is simple in user, and then again we'd just be using the email and password. So I'm going to just copy those out here. And then this will give us should give us back a session token, and then we are logged in. Oops, let's see, what am I doing wrong here? Oops, got to just pass in just the email and the password.
And so for those that are listening to this, not necessarily watching it, basically you've built all this into the API for Coronium, so that you can create a user or you can log a user in programmatically.
Correct. And so you can have a user-based system, and then once you have a user-based system, of course, the sky's the limit as far as what you want to do. You can, have a subscription type app where you have members. You can track scores. You can, anything you need to keep status with a user. Once that's done, then you have that.
Does this include any sort of what do you call it? Not authentication or authorization, where you've got different levels to things, or do you just build that into your system however you want?
Yeah, there's not any ACL yet, but you could build that in. Again, it may be something that gets put in over time. The thing that's kind of tricky about Coronium is that pretty much it's a set of tools that you can make pretty much anything you need to on the server side. So these extra modules like user management and push and things like that are just things that I'm adding in to kind of ease the user friction. But by all means, people should be expanding upon these things and kind of tweaking them. And I think that's what a lot of the users now are doing anyways, just kind of extending some of these things.
Yeah, and access control is always kind of a dicey thing anyway, because you never know exactly how people are going to want to slice and dice permissions.
Yeah, and the other thing is too is Coronium in general is, and I think I've mentioned it before, it's more for the low to medium volume apps. If you're going to be doing super high level stuff, you need ACL and stuff, Coronium may not be what you're looking for unless you're willing to go in there and kind of tweak it and make it yours. As far as the system itself and the architecture, it can support that, but that's generally not what it's been created for. So so we logged in. We have our session now. So once we have a session, then we're no longer passing this information back and forth, and so we can do things that are related to being logged in. And so to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and add a callback here. And this what happens here is once we log in, then in this area now I have the session and I'm logged in. And one of the things you can do is do a get me, which basically this will pull back the logged in user's record, and it also will confirm that there is a session running in case you need to check that. So by logging in, this is what happened here first. I logged in, and then I called the get me, and then I'm getting my data back here for my user information for that record. If I put in a bad password or wasn't logged in, I wouldn't be able to pull off this call. So additionally, if I need to update my record for this user, then it's update user, and then I'm just going to pass a table of whatever I want. So I'm going to say coffee equals black, and actually I don't even need to put the quotes on this, and saving that up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call this back too, so I'm going to do another callback here. And again, I'll do a get me so we can see this up. So basically, logging in, throwing an update with this new data, and then pulling the record back again. And so here we go on the result. Here you can see now it's added this coffee value for me, so now that's part of my user record, and that's also gets embedded in here in my Mongo. So that way you can just add attributes to your user record if you need to. Of course, you can create a completely separate object if you don't want to tie those things to your user, but that's the way you can do that there.
So now with Mongo, you really don't have a predefined schema, so you don't have to go in and say, that this field is an integer or a string or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing there with Coronium is, as you're adding attributes to your updating your user with attributes, basically Mongo is just adding that as another field, so to speak, on the fly. Is that the way that works?
That is absolutely the way it works. That's kind of not. Obviously, it's not perfect for every situation, but generally for these types of apps, it makes a lot of sense, and it's really really simple to work with, which is real nice.
I think that's one of the crazy things about some of the Mongo-related tutorials or languages that I've seen. Like I was looking at some other technology, web technologies, and they're all kind of like, okay, and then we do this and blah blah blah, and you know it's interacting with the database, and at some point you're like, well, they didn't say when to define that or what type that was, or you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, because they're using Mongo.
Yeah. I mean, there is some setup when you first install the server. There, you can with Mongo you can run JavaScript files, and so when you first set up an instance, there is a kind of an initialization JavaScript file that puts some indexes on some certain records, because I have on like the session variables and some of the other reset links and stuff. I actually have like an expiry on those records, so if you don't hit the reset link within 15 minutes, then that record will disappear, so that you'll have to go through that process again, etc. So yeah, Mongo is really neat. I've been spending a lot of time with it, and just a lot of interesting things you can do, especially when you get into the data aggregation stuff. So we have registered users. So let's look at the other process. This is through the settings here. I'm in my email again, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on the account confirmation stuff, and we'll update that. So now if I add in a new user here, let's try one. Let's do register. And I'm saving that up, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh that, and then I get my call out here. I should, in my email, oops, that's somebody else here. In my email here, I have my Coronium, confirm your new account, and this is basically just a very simple email that gets generated. And there are templates on the server, and if you go to the help files, you can see how to work with this. But all of these pieces, the email, etc., are all templates that you can go ahead and go in and edit. So you can edit all of this visually. It's just made very simply. So we have the activate, and then we get taken to a confirmation. Again, this is a very simple template that's on the server that you can have access to, that you just design around. And then once that's done in our users, well, we didn't look at the unconfirmed. If we would have looked at this a second ago, this would have been unchecked, unconfirmed. But since I went through that process now, it's been confirmed, so now I have a confirmed user. So that's just real simple. By flipping a switch, you can get confirmation for your users. If they hadn't gone through clicking that link and confirming it, then they wouldn't be able to log in under this name. So that makes that part real simple. As far as if you say lost your password, there is a request password function, and all you need is your email address. I'm just going to go ahead and pop this in there and refresh, and if I go check my email now, reset your account password. Again, these are all templates that can be rearranged by you. So reset the password, and we get the password screen. I'm just going to go with the 1, 2, 3, 4 here. And this is then once that's done, that's all updated. And again, you can design these however you want. So now, if I wanted to re-log in, I'm going to need my new password on that. I'm just going to go ahead and take that off. And I will refresh that, and now we're re-logged in with the new password. So that automates that whole process as far as the email is concerned. So as far as user management, just as far as covering the basics, it's all in there. And as you can see, it's for the major functionality, it's basically about three different calls. So it makes it real nice to have that all dealt with there in the back end. The next thing that we have that's kind of nice is the push stuff. And what I've done is Pushbots has just a really nice simple API as far as being able to integrate with their systems. So unfortunately today they're running a little slow. But once you punch in your settings for your push bots, which is under here, our settings area, in push bots, you just put in your application ID and your application secret, which you grab from the pushbot site. And then you'll have this integration, and this is some stats that are coming from pushbots for your sends. You can see your devices here. And then a send panel, which is customized for Corona. So if you go on their site and use theirs, you're kind of dealing with the two different platforms where there are some tricky things when it comes to Android alerts, etc. But for here, this is all made for Corona. As we know, there is a custom table that Corona can consume with a push. So this kind of gives you an area to build that table if you want to. There's tagging too. So if you needed to send off messages by tag, you can just add those in here as long as you've tagged your device, and those are all that stuff is documented under the push area, how to do all the tagging and stuff like that. So right now I already went ahead and put one of my devices. These devices are already registered with pushbots. So if I wanted to send a message, I can send it out globally, but additionally you can do user-to-user messaging and very specific messaging through the cloud code, which is kind of nice. But to do that, you have to link your device with your user account. So there's kind of two different methods. There is, linking the phone directly to a user account, which gives you more options, or you can still just leave it as a global kind of push without having to use the user management, because you may not always be doing it that way. So
now, on the user side of things, that what you're talking about there, is that something that your user base would have to do, or you're saying that you could send it from user to user if they had created accounts through your system?
Yeah, as long as you've created it through the system. So, just as an example, I'll in my globals here, I've just gone ahead to make it easy. I've just grabbed my this is the device token that comes back from my iPod. So I'm just going to go ahead, because I'm not on a device, I'm on the desktop here, I kind of have to jimmy this one a bit. So this would be, so to link a user device, it's link user device, and I'll be passing in the device token. Now I do have to log in first, because this is an action that requires logging in. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in here. So now what I'm doing is I'm logging in under my name, and then I'm going to link my user device, and that's going to be my device token. So if all goes well, I should now, under my users, have a linked device. And so on my C. Byerly here, I do now have a linked device, because some people have multiple devices. So the way that I set it up, you can link multiple devices to this account, and then you could ping them all at the same time if you wanted to. So in here, it's taken in that device. Now, because I've done it from the desktop, it doesn't know the proper platform. So just to make this test interesting, I'm just going to jump into my Mongo here real quick and update this device to give it a realistic platform. So I'm in my users here. And as you can see now, everything's all nice and encrypted. We're using bcrypt for the passwords, which is a nice encryption method. And again, though, it doesn't do you much good unless you're running HTTPS to transfer this stuff over. So I'm changing my platform to iOS. You would never need to do this. This is just for the example. It'll automatically pull this from the device as you're using it. So now that we have a device connected, we don't need to actually use any of this. We can close this the push area down. And what we'll do is we'll make a push through some cloud code. And to do that, what we need, the only thing we need to push to another user is their user ID. So this is something that you would get through listing the users, or your game. You might have once you register two users together, you'll want to store their IDs. And so that's all I need to be able to send a push. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab this ID here. And then I'm going to go and create a cloud code piece, and this kind of introduces a new kind of alpha piece I'm working on right now, and this is the cloud editor. And what's neat about this is that you don't have to go, you don't have to do any FTP or anything. You can just edit that code right here on the back end of the system. So I'm going to create a new file, and we'll just call it pushit.lua.
Come on, everybody sing it. I know everybody's singing.
I know, it's my favorite thing to type in. So there's some neat things on this, just some auxiliary stuff. You can change your themes for the editor. You can change your font size down here, etc. So I wish this was more exciting, but this is going to be a pretty simple piece of code. I'm going to grab an answer back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Coronium.
Oh, I
For
can't.
this as well.
There you go.
There's some more options for this as well, but we're just using it in the most simplest form. So this is coronium.user.push, the ID of the user, and then the message. And just to make sure that there's something to come back to the phone here, it's always nice to send something back. We'll say yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. And this all does a shortcut key, so you can just Command or Control S to save up. And just to show off the cool themes here, you can change different themes and change your font size if you want, because that's important. And so once we have that, then it's as simple as going back over here and just running this. So let's do a run, and we'll do a push it. And again, when we're running cloud code, we don't put the .lua on there. So if all goes well, I have my iPhone, my iPod here. Let's see if we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and run this code and see if we hear a beep or bing here. All right, so we just got a nice little message, and I wish I could show that better. It's kind of neat because you can show it with the Xcode, but I've run out of USB ports as soon as I plug in my camera, so I kind of was all set up to do that, and then I was like, whoops, can't put my camera in there.
There's never enough USB ports.
Never. So that's this cloud code. So once you have everything registered and the phone linked up, then it's as simple as this. So then it's trivial to kind of create a system where you're kind of sending back and forth information for game state, etc. And then what's even nicer is that you can also include that custom table in here, which is what we see here. So when we use the custom table, in this case here, we can do something like score equals 1,000, and this person's last position was whatever, 100 by 100. And as you can see, it's just all built out like a regular Lua table. And when this message is sent, this comes in as the custom table. And people who worked with push are probably familiar with the push with Corona. When you receive a push message, you also receive a special table called the custom table, which allows you to do all sorts of neat stuff. That you can deep linking and different setups. So this is nice because this is something I think is really important as far as pushing the messages back and forth, especially in regards to multiplayer games or multiplayer apps or things like that, because you can send some state that way. Of course, you can just ping the server and get the data there as well, but this can kind of set that up for you. So that's kind of nice. And in general, that pretty much wraps up what's new. As far as, of course, we're not going to go in to each different piece of functionality, but if you browse the docs, there actually is a lot of different functionality that's been added for users and for push. But those are all documented, and of course we have the Google group, so if you ever want to jump on there and ask some questions, there's a handful of us there that are kind of making things happen, so we'd love to have you. And just hit Coronium.io, and anybody who's been sitting on the fence, it's really simple to install an instance, especially on Amazon. You can do it within 5-6 minutes for the first time, and then the second time it's a couple minutes. So jump on board and come check it out and help us build it and make it a cool tool for Corona users.
Very cool. Yeah, I know that you've got all the instructions. Everything's done in video format, so really it's just a matter of just paint by numbers, really.
And we're always looking. A lot of people are putting stuff out right now. So we've had Coronium has put out a number of apps, and there, I help people during the day, and there's other people working on stuff right now too. So I know that people are using it.
So
Does anybody have
Chris,
questions?
my question for you is: do you ever sleep?
Not as much as I should.
It seems like you have worked a lot on this. I mean, since I clearly been watching it since the early days, and this is really it's leaps and bounds above where you started. So
Thank you. Yeah, no, it is a ridiculous amount of hours when I think about it. But the good thing is one, I think it's a cool product, so I stand behind it. I'm learning a ton. Coming from my SQL PHP background, I've kind of was feeling a little behind. So now I'm feeling like I know quite a bit as far as what's going on right now. So, and it's nice to have the community get behind it and have fun and just coding and making cool stuff. So, but yeah, it's been a lot of work.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you had any Mongo before you started this or what.
No, pretty much just PHP, MySQL. So, and learning a ton about JavaScript and Bootstrap and design stuff and Mongo and server, etc., security, everything. So it's great. Hopefully, I can get a job soon.
Nice.
So I don't have to be a babysitter the rest of my life.
Yeah. So you mentioned templates before. Are you using a templating engine, like Handlebars or something, or is it
like Mustache? There is. It's really cool because since with Corona you're kind of limited as far as what you can pull in from the Lua world, and when you get out there and kind of look around what people have made for Lua, there's some really neat stuff. And I was reading some stats too. I'm going to post some of these stats for the speed of OpenResty, which is basically Lua and Nginx, compared to some other systems, because it's usually up in the top 10, top 15 of every kind of system. So it's really fast stuff. And so there's a handful of templating systems in Lua. The one I'm using right now is called, I think it's got a really strange name. It's like Lua EU or something like that, or EA. But I did find one the other day that's heavily based off of Mustache, so I think I might move over to that. The one I'm using right now is very simple, though, which I like keeping it simple, especially if you're going to have people digging into code. A template isn't worth much if a person can't design it without breaking the actual code part of it. So
you're right, yeah, and it seems like there's so many different varieties of or at least philosophies of how templates should be handled, how templating should be handled. Should it have, any sort of processing code in it? Should it just be a straight up template? Should it just be, all these different things? So
yeah, I mean, obviously the goal is to have the least amount of processing. But this one, the one that I'm using now, is nice. It handles what it needs to, and then it allows you to do, just kind of some normal loops and things like that, which you do need to do often in your template. So. But that's all. The whole base of Coronium in general is always shifting around with different components. But there's a lot of cool stuff out there. I'm just working with Lua in general is just really neat. So it's a good language, fun language.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. Thanks for spending all the time on it.
Thank you for giving me the time. I appreciate it. I'm sure it gets boring every once in a while to have to hear me rattle on about Coronium all the time. So
no, I actually I don't know about anybody else, but there's a point there where I'm just amazed. I'm just like mesmerized by doing and I have to remind myself that I can go back and watch it again, right? Because at some point I'm like, oh, I know I can follow what he's talking about right now, but there's gonna be a time later that I'm gonna be like, how do you do that again?
Excellent. Well, I'm always here to answer questions too. So.
Yeah, you're definitely good. You're good about that. Now, Ed, I know we were going to do some demos today, and I'm sorry that we didn't get to that. I know that unless you want to squeeze in the next 6 minutes, I don't think that we're going to have time.
No, that's all right. No problem.
But, yeah.
I made a few updates to some code that I wrote for an article last week. What I'll do is I'll just release it to the guy who asked the question, and put it out in the forums, and maybe talk about it next week.
Yeah. If we can, I was going to say, if we can do that, let's bring it back and let's talk about it next week. Let's bring all this stuff to the table and do some demos. We're trying to line up a guest next week with some special news and hopefully that'll work out. But I think we'll have time for it all next week. So we'll finish all the things that we didn't get to today. We'll just carry it over.
All right, no problem.
Continue the conversation. But
I'm excited to hear about Coronium, so that's good.
Yeah. In the meanwhile, I think everybody should go play with Coronium. I say play like just experiment, have fun, make it something that it's not necessarily overwhelming. Because I think Chris is, again, I don't want to embarrass him, but I think he's done an exceptional job of documenting everything, creating videos. I mean, the fact that I don't know, it's really kind of stupid. I feel like I don't mean Chris is stupid. I don't mean Coronium stupid. I just feel like that's a bad word. I don't even know. It's just amazing is probably a better word. That you've built the code, the documentation, the videos. I mean, it's all like it's just stupid. It's crazy stupid. I mean,
well,
you made
code is no good without good documentation. So I
know it, but you've done such a great job on it. It's just crazy. It is just crazy how yeah. And so yeah, I won't embarrass you, but go check it out. Go play with it. It's and these days getting something set up on like Amazon is even Amazon's stupid. Their whole cloud thing is just like stupid. I'm just watching Ed's face cringe every time I say it.
You're hurting me with this stupid business, but it's all good.
I'm gonna get that. That's those T-shirts. I'm with stupid. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure.
I still think we should do those shirts.
Which ones?
Flavor Ed.
Flavor Ed shirts. Oh, I'm waiting on Greg to, I think Greg's waiting on me. He sent me the images.
I'll take a coffee cup.
You'll take a what?
A coffee cup.
A coffee cup with Flavor Ed on it?
Flavor Ed on it, yeah.
I think we can work that out. Greg,
Press.
we're going to work that out, man. You and me.
The cult of...
the cult of Flavor Ed.
The cult of flavor.
With Coronium on the backside. We should do that. We'll just do all sponsors, right, on one
side. And then the phrase, that's just stupid.
And that's...
That's got a catch to it.
That and all I've got is your face. I like that one too.
All I've got is your face.
All I've got is your face. That's today's slogan.
We got a whole sequence of products here we could.
Right. See, the ideas are just flowing like wine.
Wow.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for being here.
But that's all right.
And
do you guys know about Ghost blogging platform?
Which where?
Ghost blogging platform. Yes.
I've been following Ghost. Has anybody else been following Ghost?
You
know what I'm talking about?
No.
Basic. So tell them, Sergey. You brought it up.
I've used WordPress before, and a week ago I decided to rebuild my website using this Ghost platform, and I really like it. I really like it much better than WordPress. I can show you how it's like to write an article in Ghost on my website. Where is the sharing button?
Yeah, it uses Markdown and things like that, right? So it's real lightweight.
Right.
Yeah, the editor's neat too.
Yeah, it's stupid. No. I like that. I like the concept of Ghost because it's like even Matt Mullenweg, the creator of WordPress, founder of WordPress, said that that WordPress needs to become more of a platform. Like they need it. It's not really built to.
Don't even try to look inside the code of WordPress. It's horrible.
Well, look, we're working inside the CodePress itself. WordPress CodePress. Working inside WordPress itself isn't that big a deal because you really rarely want to touch WordPress. But anyway, he just wants to make it more into this tool that you can build anything with, I guess is the point, and not just a blogging tool. And so I think Ghost is interesting from that standpoint. Yeah, it's a blogging tool, but I think it has potential to become a platform for developing other things.
Right. So here's my website. Can you see it on my screen share?
I don't know. What do you guys? Can you guys see it? I'm seeing weird things over here.
I saw it for a second.
You can't see my website.
I do see it.
Now. Yeah.
You do see it. Okay, so this is how it looks like, and for example, let's look at number 6 of my Corona tip. So here's how the code looks like. So I have here some pretty printing for the code and other stuff. And here's how the admin part looks like. So you have Markdown to the left and how it will look like to the right. Well, almost how it will look, because you're altering with your own style sheets, but it's getting you the idea of it. And I really like it because you don't have to mess with pure HTML tags. So you have Markdown. You can easily define headers. You easily define links and other stuff. And it's really fun to write such articles. Much easier than on WordPress I used to do. So and at the top there is help showing all the most useful tags for Markdown. So as you can see, they are really simple.
Yeah, you know, keeping things light, keeping things uncomplicated. I mean, that seems to be the recurring theme. I mean, like Chris was talking about earlier. You know, I'm sorry this isn't more exciting, but it's, you know, here it is in one line. You know, it's kind of like okay.
And there was one feature that I missed on this blogging platform, and it was the preview for the posts. Like I have the preview part, and my main part goes when I hit continue reading. This was not available in Ghost, so I decided to just make it myself and dive into the code of Ghost platform, and it was really easy. So I had to change only one file for the helpers. Helpers is a function that you use in templates, and there is a function called content, and I just added it a special attribute preview, which only was just an extra if statement to the code, and it was done. It was ready.
Yeah,
So
cool.
I really like how it's easy to modify to your needs. So it's much easier than WordPress.
Now, are you editing Ghost directly?
Yeah,
What happens when you if there's an upgrade? What happens then?
it uses JIT, so you can merge the update.
Okay, interesting. Okay, well, yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes for that as well. Go check it out. It'd be cool to play with, something new to experiment with. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for spending time with us. Be back here next Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific for more of code and Corona. And until then, go out there in the world and be stupid. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.